Well, it has not been a quiet week here in Detroit, my hometown, the Motor City, though it surely started out trying to be. The thunderstorms came through first, the way they like to in June, rolling across southeast Michigan in the late afternoon when a man is just starting to think about supper, dropping heavy rain into all the low spots and bringing a wind that meant business. Out on the Detroit River, it got serious enough that a handful of sailboats turned right over near Belle Isle, which is the sort of thing that'll give a fellow standing at his backyard grill something to shake his head over for a day or two. And then, the way it always does, the weather thought better of itself. By the end of the week, the sky had gone soft and mild and forgiving. The festivals moved back out of doors. The farmers' markets filled up. Folks were down on their knees in the flower beds and bent over the tomato plants. And the auto plants ran right on through all of it. And that, more or less, is the reason a Detroiter will tell you that summer here is worth the long wait. It was Juneteenth that carried the week, of course. There was the 4th annual Juneteenth parade over in Virginia Park, and down at Spirit Plaza, they made a real day of it, music and food and a good many people who hadn't laid eyes on each other since last summer, all pretending they'd planned to meet there the whole time. The eating out news was good, too, for those who keep track of such things, and around here a fair number of us do. The Capitol Grill opened a new steakhouse out in Livonia, which is just fine if that's the kind of evening you're after. And closer to my own heart, Balkan House is coming back into the city proper, a doner kebab place over in Midtown in the old Five and Dime building near Wayne State. And I'll tell you, there is no sound on this earth quite like a hungry college student getting word of a thing like that. On the automobile front, which in this town is never very far from anything, the big talk is that Waymo has started running its driverless cars around Detroit, getting ready to turn us all loose to hail one. And I'll just let you sit a moment with the picture of an empty car rolling up to fetch you, because I'm still sitting with it myself. It's been a harder stretch for some. The GM layoffs across Michigan and Ohio are still settling over kitchen tables. But the plants and the shops are busy with the new electric work, the batteries, the tool and die, the skilled trades all through Oakland and Macomb and Wayne. And the men and women who build things for a living are doing what they have always done, which is keep one eye on the interest rates, the other on the line, and just keep working. The story that sits the heaviest is the Archdiocese of Detroit, 2 years now into the long business of sorting itself out, and the word this week is that as many as 90 parishes could see their weekend masses come to an end. They'll give you the arithmetic of it, attendance off by something near 40%, $94 million in buildings that need mending and no money to mend them, and fewer priests every year to go around. And the arithmetic is true enough. But arithmetic was never the whole of a parish, and so they're going church by church now, sitting down with people, letting everybody say their piece. Some of those rooms, I expect, are very quiet. And it being June, the neighbors next door did the thing Michiganders do this time of year, which is not pack up and leave for the season, mind you, but slip away for the weekend, up to a little cottage on Lake Huron. That's how it's done here. You go north for a couple of days, you come home sunburned and content, and a good deal behind on the lawn, and the next weekend, like as not, you do it all again. Closer to home, it was Tuesday evening when my son's Toyota, the FJ Cruiser, quit on him over on Opdyke Road in Auburn Hills, just rolled to a stop, and he had the good sense to coast it into the parking lot of KFC, which is as fine a place as any to break down, if break down you must. We went out with the jumper cables, and she fired right up, happy as you please, and then, the very moment we pulled the cables off, she died again, which is a car's quiet way of telling you it's the alternator. So CJ called the tow truck, and we sent her up to Marshall's at Crooks and M59 and stood there a minute in the lot the way you do. Cars don't last forever, and neither do the parts inside them. And when one finally gives out, you just roll with it. There's a small peace in that once you quit fighting it. Wednesday, I handed an hour and a half of my morning over to the dentist chair, Dr. Paige McClelland, who is awfully good company even with both hands in your mouth. She cleaned out a cavity on the one tooth and got the one beside it ready for a crown. The temporary's on there now. The real one comes along in a couple of weeks. And she told me a joke. She asked me what a dentist's favorite time of day is, and the answer, it turns out, is 2:30. You know, 2:30. Then she sent me off with homework. Come back with a lawyer joke, she said, and I do believe I've got one. A new client sits down and says, "If I give you $500, will you answer 2 questions for me?" And the lawyer says, "Absolutely. What's the second one?" And one last bit of news I heard this week from Stephanie Rosebaugh out in Prescott, Arizona, a fine ultra runner with her eye on the United States team for Big's Backyard down in Tennessee this fall. To get herself there, she's running a thing called the Ode de Laz, a last person standing race up in Holly in July. And she wrote to ask whether I'd come run her crew. I had to tell her no. That's the very morning I leave for the Summit 200 out in Colorado, and a man can only be in one set of mountains at a time. But I put her in touch with my son CJ and my friend and pacer, Jillian Pizzamenti, and the two of them are on board and glad to do it. So keep an eye on Stephanie up in Holly. I've got a feeling she's going to be just fine. And that's the news from Detroit, where the coffee's strong, the neighbors are nosy, and nobody ever quits. If something in here got you thinking, something from the news on top, a Detroit story of your own, a memory the cottage talk stirred up, even a lawyer joke better than mine, put it down in the comments. I read every one, and I'll answer. And a like and a subscribe help the channel. Now, let's get into the work. Week 25. This was a recovery and rebuild week, the second one back after the Huron 100. The plan called for easy miles and a first gentle touch of climbing, 38 kilometers on paper with about 400 meters of vert. Here's the plan versus executed. I ran 4 days and the legs felt good enough that I overshot. Closer to 47 kilometers of running by the end, plus a couple of bike commutes and 2 hours of pickleball. Saturday is where it ran away from me, 14 kilometers on the plan, and I ended up with a half marathon. Where I came up a little short was the single big vert target. I was chasing 300 meters of climb on Saturday and only found 221. Michigan will do that to you. So, more distance than planned, a touch less vert than I wanted, and a body that's clearly turning the corner. A good week. Sunday, June 14th, opened the week as a scheduled rest day. The plan called for rest, and I took it. Easy living, good food, a full night's sleep. Monday, June 15th, I worked at home in the morning, then drove to Rochester Municipal Park and jumped on the Paint Creek Trail. The plan called for an easy 6 kilometers. I ran north to Tinkin Road, turned around, came back through the city of Rochester, and tied in a short stretch of the Clinton River Trail before heading home. A hair over 6 kilometers in the end. I used my run-walk 180 running steps, then 30 walking steps, and it felt comfortable the whole way. Mid-60s, a little breeze, partly cloudy, sun coming through full green canopy. The Paint Creek itself was running high and loud from the weekend rain. A gorgeous day, and the body is clearly recovering from Huron. Tuesday, June 16th, the plan called for light pickleball and light strength. I got 2 hours of pickleball in at the Rochester OPC and reconnected with a couple of old friends, Ray, one of the instructors there, and Gerald, a sharp player. Then home for strength, side planks, goblet squats, Romanian deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats, step-ups, single-leg calf raises, and dead bugs. No weights, just body weight, but enough. The body actually feels ready for more. Ready to start stacking miles toward the Summit 200. Wednesday, June 17th. After my morning at the dentist, I drove to Rochester Municipal Park, the duck pond, and headed out for an easy 8 kilometers. Ended up closer to 8.5. I was breaking in a brand new pair of Norda 002s that came in the mail that morning. A little less drop, but I hardly noticed. I ran behind the library over to the Clinton River Trail, out toward Borden Park, and hit the 2 sets of stairs there for some vertical. On the way back by the little Rotary Park along the Paint Creek connector, a couple of painters had their easels out. One was working on a portrait of a dog, keeping a wary eye on the wind coming through. Some lingering soreness in the legs, a leftover from Cocodona and Huron, but a good run. Thursday, June 18th. The plan called for a moderate 10 kilometers on gentle hills, the first real touch of climbing since Huron, so I went out to the Bald Mountain Recreation Area. Low 60s, big white cumulus clouds, windy on the drive out, but calm and protected once I dropped into the single track under the canopy. I ran the 2 loops, the figure 8, and came in just under 11 kilometers. Plenty of wildlife, a wild turkey that led me down the trail for 1/10 of a kilometer before deciding it had had enough of me, a little snapping turtle near the lot, and the other day the tail end of a green snake slipping into the brush. This is Massasauga country, the only venomous snake in Michigan, though in all my time out there, I've never actually seen one. Around the 6th or 7th kilometer, I felt some discomfort in my left shin and left hip. Not debilitating. I managed it by simply slowing down and being deliberate with my footing, and that did the trick. These things tend to come and go. Tomorrow, I may not feel it at all. The goal is to get to the summit start line healthy. I ran the Norda 001s, my Solomon 12-liter vest, and a single short-sleeve jersey. And, wide-awake moment, I nearly got clobbered by a car backing out of a driveway. They just didn't see me. Friday, June 19th was the other scheduled rest day. The plan called for rest on both Sunday and Friday, so that's exactly what I did. 2 true days off to let the rebuild settle in. Saturday, June 20th, the plan was 14 kilometers easy with 300 meters of vert. I rode the bike about 8 kilometers from the house to the Gallagher Road trailhead. Forgot to start my Coros watch, so it only caught part of the ride. Then got off and ran south on the Paint Creek Trail. 300 meters of climbing is hard to find in Michigan. I ran down to the Borden Park stairs and did 6 sets and still only got to 221 meters. I'll have to do 10 sets next time. I'd meant to run 14 kilometers and ended up doing 21.24, basically a half marathon. Saturday morning is the popular long run window, so I saw a lot of familiar faces and a whole parade of wildlife, squirrels, brown and black, chipmunks, ducks, wild turkeys, rabbits, and a doe with her little fawn following along behind. Low 60s, mostly clear, sun shining, beautiful. Climbing was the challenge, and that left hip and shin spoke up again, but it settled once I got running. I hadn't planned to be out 13 plus miles and carried no water, so the fountains at Tinkin and Gallagher tasted awfully good. A strong way to close the week. I want to talk this week about the runner's lean. The Tahoe 200 ran last weekend, and I followed it online. I couldn't help but notice how many runners were fighting the lean late in the race, including Amy Stratton Costa, who was crewed by Danny Westergaard and Carla Kent. And Danny himself battled the lean earlier this year at the Cocodona 250. Watching Amy develop that lean and carry it across the finish line, it reminded me of what so many of us run into in the back half of these multi-day races. So let's get into it. Here's the honest headline, and I went deep on this. The peer-reviewed literature, the practitioner consensus, and 100-odd runners describing it in their own words. The lean sits in a research gap. There is no single study that defines the late race ultra lean as its own thing and tells you how to fix it. And it isn't just the academics who say so. The entire experienced ultra community openly admits it. Over and over, the most knowledgeable voices land on the same line. Nobody really knows. So when I tell you this is genuinely unresolved and unsolved, that's not me hedging. That's the consensus of the people who live it. But nobody knows the whole picture doesn't mean we know nothing. Here's what we understand. The leading explanation is hip abductor failure, the glutes. When the gluteus medius and minimus fatigue, the pelvis drops and the trunk lists toward the weak side. It tends to show up on the same side every time for a given person, and the reason is simple. We all carry left to right muscle imbalances, so one side gives out before the other over the extreme hours of an ultra. Now, the most technically credible people who actually treat this add a refinement worth knowing. The quadratus lumborum, the QL. It's a deep muscle in your lower back, and it's a primary side bender of the spine. The cleaner story goes like this. The glutes fatigue upstream. The QL tries to compensate. It shortens and spasms, and that's the visible sideways collapse you see. Weak glutes pulling the trigger, tight QL firing the shot. Fuel and fluid are in the mix too. Underfueling and dehydration track with the lean again and again. There's even a hypothesis that ties low sodium, hyponatremia, to a little brain swelling and a one-sided loss of motor control, which would be the bridge between the folks who swear it's electrolytes and the folks who swear it came from their head. One thing to keep separate: there is a true neurological cousin called runner's dystonia. That one is chronic, it builds over years, and it's a different animal from the transient fatigue lean we're talking about. Worth knowing the name so you don't confuse the two. So what actually helps? The best evidenced answer is prevention. Hip, glute, and core strength, built-in training long before the start line. The most respected voice in our world on this is Joe Huron, a physical therapist and an elite ultra runner. And he's refreshingly blunt. He calls himself a leaner. He says the tape and the inserts and just leaning the other way are Band-Aids, and that the real fix for him was getting stronger. Then there's Dr. Lovy's theory, which a lot of you have asked about. His idea is that certain muscles run low on potassium and stop firing. The body tips, and you can reset the sequence with firm pressure on the gluteus minimus for 30 to 40 seconds, followed by some potassium. Here's the fair read. The building blocks of that theory are real science. Potassium genuinely is central to how a muscle fires, and firm manual pressure producing a brief neuromuscular reset is a reasonable mechanism. It's biologically plausible, and it's been field tested by serious people. What's missing is controlled evidence that it's actually potassium driving the lean, and that the press reliably reverses it. So I'd call it a credible, coherent field heuristic, not a proven fact. And I'll say honestly, the direction of the lean is one place where Dr. Lovy and the mainstream part ways, and where my own experience lines up with the mainstream. I've had it on different sides in different races. So I don't think it's locked to one side for everybody. A few field tactics people genuinely swear by, planting a pole on the lean side to force yourself upright, brief lie-downs to reset the spine for a few miles at a time, and preloading potassium before and during. All anecdotal but lived wisdom from a lot of finish lines. And one safety flag. Once in a while, what looks like a lean is a real structural injury, not just fatigue. So if it doesn't clear up after the race, get it properly checked. The honest bottom line, the lean is mostly a hip stabilizer failure, fatigue-driven, with a QL compensation, plus metabolic and neuromuscular contributors. Prevention through strength is the most supported approach. The mid-race resets are plausible and widely used, but unproven. And anybody who tells you they've got it solved with certainty, they're overselling it. I've put the sources I leaned on down in the show notes, and if you want to read further, Joe Huron's writing on the lean, and the magazine feature laying out Dr. Lovy's method, among others. And the standard disclaimer: none of this is medical advice. It's just where I've been reading. This week I ran in the Norda 002s. So here's the honest breakdown. And right up front, I have no affiliation with Norda. Nobody's paying me. Nobody sent me anything for a plug. I bought these with my own money, and this is just one runner's take. What it is: a low-stack, precision technical shoe built on a seamless Biodyneema upper and a Vibram midsole with a Mega Grip outsole. The stack runs 26 millimeters at the heel and 21 at the forefoot, a 4 millimeter drop with 5 millimeter lugs. That Dyneema upper is the headline. It's marketed as the strongest fiber in the world, and reviewers report rocks and sticks leaving no marks on it at all. Where it shines is in technical terrain and ground feel. The low stack and that Vibram outsole make it agile enough and confidence-inspiring on technical descents, the kind of shoe you can charge downhill in without the usual ankle roll anxiety. The toe box is famously roomy, which suits wide feet, and the upper still hugs without constricting. Now, the usual knock on this shoe is that it's a short to mid-tool. The consensus sweet spot is 50 kilometers and under, and people warn you off running a 200-miler in it because that low, firm stack gets punishing over 50-plus straight hours. And that's true if you're planning to run a whole 200 in one pair of shoes. But that's not how I race the long stuff. In a 200-miler, I rotate shoes, and I cap any single pair at about 100K before I swap into something fresh. So the firmness over 50 hours problem just doesn't apply the same way, which is why I can absolutely see a place for the 002s at the Summit 200. For a technical, rocky, lower mileage segment, somewhere I want grip and ground feel and quick feet under me, I could slot these in for a leg, run my 100K or less in them, and then rotate into more stack and protection for the long, grinding miles. That's the honest verdict. Not the shoe for the whole race, but a real candidate for a piece of it. And for technical training blocks and short, fast days here at home, they're excellent. The Summit 200 is coming up fast, July 27th, and it starts right across from Copper Mountain Resort at the bottom of the 10-mile range in Summit County, Colorado. I've got a history with this race. I ran its inaugural year in 2024 and crossed the finish line. I came back in 2025 with a calf I had badly injured playing pickleball the 1st of July. It was still tender at the start, and I had to pull out at 62 kilometers as it deteriorated. So this year, the whole game is getting to that start line healthy. The course is one 200-mile non-repetitive loop around Summit County, mostly single track, some infrequently traveled forest roads, a little four-wheel drive road, some rec path, and short pavement. The course data shows around 40,000 feet of climbing and the same coming back down. But the altitude is the defining feature. This is billed as the highest altitude, non-repetitive 200 in the country. The lowest point sits above 9,000 feet, and parts of the course climb past 12,700. That's the thing to respect most. Sustained time up high makes this far more punishing than the climbing number alone would tell you. Coming straight off a Michigan summer, my acclimatization window is going to matter a great deal. It's a small field, less than 75 runners, with possible expansion to 100, 12 full aid stations, 4 sleep stations, and a drop bag support. Most of the aid stations do made-to-order hot food with vegan options, which fits my plant-based setup just fine. Next week is the start of the Summit Base block, the first real vert work of this cycle. A vert intro on Monday, sustained climbing midweek, a long day with 700 meters of gain on the weekend. But the plan and the executed are about to part ways in the best possible way. Thursday, I travel west out to Olympic Valley, California, to crew and pace David Brownrigg at the Western States Endurance Run. The plan is for me to get about 25 miles of pacing on that course, the legs into Forest Hill, and a long push from Greengate all the way to the finish in Auburn, with CJ taking the middle leg between us. And here's the thing, there is no better base building for a high mountain 200 than 25 miles on the Western States Trail, on my feet, in the canyons, supporting a runner deep into his race. That's not a detour from the plan. That's the plan in its richest possible form. So next week intent is simple. Get David to that finish line and bank every climb and every mile of it for summit. That's the work for this week. Before I go, 2 questions for the comments. 1. If you've ever fought the runner's lean late in a race, which side did it pull you toward? And did anything actually straighten you back up? And 2, for the long stuff, do you rotate your shoes during a race? And if so, how many pairs do you go through? And what tells you it's time to swap? Drop your answers down below. I read every one, and I'll write back. If you're just finding the show, the whole series is right here on the channel. Jump in anywhere you like. And if the road we're on feels like one you'd want to walk a while, the like and the subscribe are how you come along. Next week we head west. Western States is waiting, and so is week 26. I'll see you out there. I'm Paul James Johnson. Keep your feet on the trail and keep reaching for the summit.